The best way I can describe to show up intentionally to network is you have to honor first what is going on with you that day, that cycle in business, whatever that is. And you can't do that if you don't just slow down for a few minutes before you show up to a conversation without knowing where you physically stand. Being an entrepreneur can be super lonely. You can feel very isolated, like I'm the only one that's ever gone through this. Turns out you are not. Yeah. And when you have people that you can share the actual true hurdles that you have going on in your business without judgment or with support or with ideas, or, hey, my other lender that I work with, they went through this a few years ago and this is what they did to get out of it. And they want to share that, like, that's amazing. And I say this to a lot of people, you know, they're like, oh, so you want to meet a lot of realtors for my mortgage business. And I'm like, with the caveat of if I can't invite them over to my house, go out to dinner and have a drink with them, or enjoy having conversations with them, if I'm dreading when they're calling my phone, it's not a good fit. That is the point where people and business owners actually need more support, right? We need more ideas. We need a little bit more collaboration. And then through that collaboration, we get to know each other a heck of a lot deeper.
Welcome back to the Hustle and Grind podcast, the show where we dig into why real entrepreneurs trade comfort for conviction. This isn't about vanity metrics or overnight success. It's about the stories behind building a reputation that actually matters. I'm your host, Andrew, keynote architect, platform builder, and fellow founder in the trenches. Today, I'm sitting down with Sarah Hubbard, the founder of the Intentional Network. After 15 years helping over 1,200 families with mortgages, Sarah got fed up with being prejudged as just another salesperson. She recognized a critical gap in the entrepreneurial landscape. No space for founders ready to grow, scale, and stop going it alone. So she built a solution. She created the Intentional Network and developed her MAP framework, which uses AI to cut preparation time in half. Sarah's mission is simple: to help entrepreneurs focus on the one thing AI can't replicate: showing up intentionally, building real trust, and executing with conviction. She is also the upcoming author of The Intentional Networker, releasing in January 2026. Get ready to rethink how you connect and grow. So, Sarah, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it. Somebody from one of my favorite cities in the world, Denver. Currently,
it is great.
It is an awesome city. But thank you so much for being on the show today. Really looking forward to chatting a lot about networking and how to not be transactional. So we'll go from there. So, thanks for being on. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It is an honor. And even in just the few minutes that we were just chatting before we started, I know it's going to be a great, easy, informative conversation.
Absolutely. So the first thing I want to talk about is networking, intentional networking, which is also the name of your book coming out like beginning of January. A little plug there. But in the world of AI that we have, and a lot of times as business owners, we're in the middle, especially we're in the growth phase, we're right in the middle of trying to figure out everything. We're chief everything officers. We know that networking has to be a thing. We know that networking is important to our business, but oftentimes we can kind of go off the rails and things become very transactional, not because we're trying to be, but because that's just the nature of the beast sometimes. What are some things that you've learned about being intentional and how to do it, well, intentionally?
Yes.
That's a better word.
Yeah. So one of the things that I integrate into all of my talks and into my book is I integrate AI prompts for people to better prepare to show up for whatever they're doing. This could be for one-to-ones. This could be for a big group setting where you're going to interact with more than 20 people, or even to a conference. And so basically, the best way I can describe to show up intentionally to network is you have to honor first what is going on with you that day, that cycle in business, whatever that is. And you can't do that if you don't just slow down for a few minutes before you show up to a conversation without knowing where you physically stand. Okay. Most people, they show up and they are going 100 miles a minute, wearing every single hat. And then they get into that conversation and they're just all over everybody. Everybody's hearing everything about them. They're not slowing down enough to listen to what else is going on about somebody else or how you can solve another person's problem. You're laughing because you're like, it happens all the time.
I get it.
I have done it in the beginning stages of my business, friends. So you are not alone in this. But how to show up really intentionally. What I really mean by this is how to show up as yourself, the magic that you have as a person, why you have created your business and your specialty, and letting that energy and that person that you are shine to everybody else. Now, It does take some efforts. This is not something that just magically comes to people and they're like, I've got it dialed in. My 30-second pitch is amazing. I know exactly how to talk about my business to other people, so it's clear and concise and people understand what I do. It takes time. And one of the things that I'm really passionate about is with the AI tools is to how to use a tool for you to practice on your own, get dialed in on what you want to say so that you can show up better when you're out there.
That's interesting using an AI tool for that, because oftentimes they're really good at reflecting stuff back on you. Like I use it. It's like, do I sound like a jerk on this, or do I really need to reword it, or some other thing where it's like, let me go see what's going on here. So
yeah.
How did you come up with using AI?
So I created a framework that I didn't realize was an actual framework when I was going through kind of different steps of how I teach people how to network. And so the framework is called the MAP framework. So MAPP. So it's mindset and intention, authentic presence, precise messaging, and purposeful follow through. And I was going out and I was going through all these stages, and nothing that I'm saying is like rocket science, guys. Like, you've all heard these terms, you've heard these buzzwords in books and podcasts and all these things. But then what I realized is a lot of the reason why people don't use these or do these in that specific order necessarily is because they don't have time. Mm-hmm. Right? We are literally back to back meetings. I was just on a client call, literally driving to this networking event in the car. I got 5 minutes before I walk into there. I had no time to prepare. I actually don't know what I need. And now what am I going to do? And so AI, of course, is our new and upcoming thing. People have there's a lot of people that are embracing it. There's a lot of people that are scared on I'll get out on it. And I was like, this can actually work in our favor. And so one of the things for the mindset and intention that I do is it's not only sitting and kind of going, what's going on with me? How am I feeling? Am I super anxious? Am I really tired? And did I just get drained by that last call because that person took a lot more from me? Or am I feeling super energized? But if you can get your hot little hands on a list of the people that are going to be there, or people that you know that are in the community that you hope will be there, and you can upload their LinkedIn profiles, their websites, you can drag and drop or tell AI to find information on this person and give yourself a few talking points to break that ice with them. AI will do it for you in seconds, right? You don't have to spend hours of your brain capacity preparing for that. Okay. And not every networking group or conference gives you a headshot list. Some of the groups I'm a part of do. You kind of got to dig a little bit sometimes if you don't know. But even if you're having a coffee with somebody, right? Andrew, if you and I were just meeting for a coffee, that's what I would do before I would meet with you is I'd go on your LinkedIn, I'd pull your website, I'd pull stuff about your podcast, different things that make up you so that I know a little bit of background of what I'm walking into, regardless of how you may directly influence business or relationships to my business.
And I think that I like the fact that you're using AI to do that. I think some people do that just intrinsically because it's a really good idea to kind of get to know who's in the room, who do I want to strategically network with, who might have, as entrepreneurs, we're always looking for people that are going to solve a problem for us. Sometimes it's that one person that you need, who is there at just the right time. For just the right moment when you need something, I had this happen recently with a friend of mine I've known him since middle school, but haven't seen him in like 30 years. I ended up sitting next to him at a concert once. We reconnect. Now because I needed somebody to help me out with the workout and diet, and that's what he does. So
yes.
Sometimes they come into, people come into your life at the right time. Right. And so it's one of those things where it's nice to kind of just know maybe, who's going to be there and who can change the world. Just a little bit. And then you just never know. I've had it pull up people for me that I never would have thought initially would be a great fit for me, like a gentleman that runs a virtual assistant company. Mm-hmm. I have referred him out to like 10 different people because we're in a world of entrepreneurs that need help. A lot of us are solopreneurs and we're about on ready to maybe get some help, but we really need some help to take some of this operational stuff off. And I wouldn't have thought that was a great introduction for me, but AI mentioned it. I ended up meeting him and he was amazing. Like, great human, great business owner, really passionate about networking as well. So sometimes it shocks you with some of the recommendations that it gives. It's not just a realtor or a, financial advisor or a divorce attorney for my mortgage business per se, but it thinks outside of the box and sees things that you don't necessarily see. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about how you got into this world? How did you get into this creating relationships world?
Yeah, so my background, I was an athlete, still play softball to this day, and I thought for sure I was going to be a physical therapist. Like, it was what I was going to do. They got me through all of these things throughout my entire life and my entire career of athletics. And then I was working in the field, went to go apply for the doctorate program, and was rejected from 15 schools with a 3.9 GPA, working full time in the field and like 120 hours of volunteer work. And I was like, at the time, I was like, I literally don't have another plan. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with my life right now. And so I came out to Colorado for my cousin's high school graduation, met my now bosses, and they were like, you should come work in the mortgage industry. And I was like,
I know that laugh. I've done it.
I'm sorry. What? And I went to interview because I had nothing to lose. 3 weeks later, packed up my car, moved to Colorado, and just immersed myself into a whole new industry that I really knew nothing about. I never owned a home. I never refinanced a home. I didn't know anything, but I went in with both feet because I was like, what do I have to lose? And so I did our back end processing work for about 3 years. And then my bosses came to me again and they're like, you should go do the sales side of things. And I was like, well, I'm watching you guys make a boatload of money. I'm making great money doing this, processing side of things. Why not? Let's give it a go. And so I did. And I am the only female originator at my company, and I am the least experienced at almost 15 years today.
Wow.
And so we have lots of big brains. And I say this with a lot of grace because I would say this to all of their faces. They're also very set in their ways of how they get business, which is direct mailers only.
Yeah.
Only. Now, they're very strategic about it. They've got great worded letter. I tried it for 9 months. I was $60,000 in debt, and I was miserable. The phone's ringing and people are like, hi, what's the rate? And I'm like, what's your name? Who are you? I don't know what the rate is. I don't know anything about you. Yeah. And so I went to a mortgage conference and realized that there was many different opportunities to grow your business. And one of them was through relationships and networking. And so I came home, just basically had very low budget, but I had a lot of time, and joined my local chamber of commerce to start. And I realized there was a whole nother world out here where people are getting to know each other. They have referral partners. And I watched and I learned a lot. And I was met with a boatload of resistance. Oh, you do residential mortgage financing? You look like you're super young. You look inexperienced. And I'm like, I've been doing this for almost 6 years, guys. Like, I don't know why everybody, I'm not inexperienced, right? But it was met with because so many people before me had left such a bad taste in people's mouths about, their agenda, their transaction. They show up for what they need and they never show up for anybody else after that. That's a problem. And so I made people kind of my makeshift mentor and learned how to do it, which was what felt good for me, right? I'm a giver. I love people. I think their stories are fascinating. I think everybody's got a great story. So I go in with a ton of curiosity. And I want to know about them. I ask questions so they tell me about themselves. Even the most introverted people where I'm like, come on, baby, I'm really working for this one, right? But they've got magic in them. They've got it in there. Yeah. And so I started to do that. And I realized, I made relationships with people early on. Most of the people that I made relationships with, I still work with to this day. Because I made those relationships on who I was, who they were as people first, and then who we are as professionals second. And that goes a really long way in the grand scheme of everything.
I've talked about it before on the show where I have this hoodie that says I do cool stuff with my friends. It doesn't say stuff, but we're going to go with that.
Yes. Yes, please.
And it really personifies how I like to do business. It sounds like you as well, where it's not as just transactional. People will come and go inside your circle. It's how life works, but I'd rather just go do really cool stuff with my friends. And, we're going to make some money and I'm going to get not just something financially or a business aspect out of it, but I'm also going to get that friendship and, being able to build stuff.
Well, and also that support. Being an entrepreneur can be super lonely. You can feel very isolated. Like, I'm the only one that's ever gone through this. Turns out you are not. No. And when you have people that you can share the actual true hurdles that you have going on in your business without judgment or with support or with ideas, or, hey, my other lender that I work with, they went through this a few years ago and this is what they did to get out of it. And they want to share that. That's amazing.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that's what people mean when they say your network is your net worth. It's not just about the transactions you can do. It's about having a group of people that understands what entrepreneurship is, and all of, repeatedly being kicked in the gut, standing up and going, I'm not done yet. Is essentially what it is. Especially, you said solopreneur, I'm saying chief everything officer. So it's the same thing. But, especially when you're growing this company, it can be really, really isolating, and not a lot of people around you, unless you've been through it, understand exactly what the hell you're going through. It's so far outside their experience. They just can't, they can't help even if they try. Right.
Yeah.
And they will try, and bless them for it. But it's just, you need people that have actually been through it and go, oh yeah, that's normal. It's all good. We're going to go through this.
Yeah. And I say this to a lot of people, they're like, oh, so you want to meet a lot of realtors for my mortgage business. And I'm like, with the caveat of, if I can't invite them over to my house, go out to dinner and have a drink with them, or enjoy having conversations with them, if I'm dreading when they're calling my phone, it's not a good fit, right? And I don't need more of that. I need more of who, when I refer them out, that communication style, the compassion, the integrity, all of the things that make up Sarah is emanated through those people that I surround myself with. And that's what you're looking for when you're networking.
And I tend to find with that level of networking, you end up being even more successful, because it's more just, you're matched with somebody. You're not just out there for the transaction. You're out there for a lot more than that. And it's, it goes back to, I heard, there's a saying that says, I'd rather have one $10,000 client than 10 $1,000 clients. And part of that is there's a relationship when you get to higher end clients that isn't there in the transactional, right? And
very much.
So it's not only so much more fun, and really it's a great thing to go build things with people, but it's also nice to have, to people that respect you and understand what you're doing, and, don't have this limiting mindset that a lot of folks do and things like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So now, I also would like you to talk a little bit about the intentional network. So it's something you did, and would love to hear some more about that. And kind of what is it? How do people join? Yep.
Yeah. So great question. So I've been doing this networking thing for like 10 years, right? And I started again in chambers. I've tried a lot of free different events. And when you're just starting in your career, there's a ton of opportunities for you to get out there without costing a lot of money. There comes a point in time where you start having success. It's usually around year 2 or 3. And then what starts happening, what I was feeling was I was doing this, and all these other people, not that I don't ever want to mentor or lead or show people the success and the easier way to do it than what I did. But they were just take all the goodness out of Sarah. And it was draining me. And I could not find consistent groups that were, don't get me wrong, BNI, Business Networking International, it has a time and a place in people's businesses, okay? It is meant for having a whole team behind you. I'm in BNI right now, and because of my top referral partner, okay? So I'm not saying this doesn't exist. It's not for everybody, right? And you get a variety of business owners in there that are just starting to super seasoned. And sometimes there's business representatives in there. But regardless, I'm picking on BNI for a reason. I went to a few networking organizations starting in 26, and nothing was just helping people scale and get to that next level after you have success after 3 years, right? When you are doing everything after that magic point, you kind of need to start hiring a little bit. You're going to need to start taking some things off of your plate. AI is a beautiful tool for that. But how do we do this? Okay. Conferences are beautiful. Books are amazing. Podcasts are amazing. But a lot of times they give you the overarching idea, but they very rarely give you the how to do something. And then we get back into our busy lives. And then we're like, oh, that sounded great, but I didn't know how to do this. So I was like, I just didn't find anything that was really touching that. So I created my own group. It's industry agnostic. I do require that people have been in their business for a minimum of 3 years, making about $300,000 in pre-tax revenue, guys, not what you take home, not what you write off. I've seen it all. Okay.
Invoices, that's it.
Yeah. But that is the point where people and business owners actually need more support, right? We need more ideas. We need a little bit more collaboration. And then through that collaboration, we get to know each other a heck of a lot deeper. And those connections that you and I were just talking about, of how when you make them and they're real and they're true and they show up as yourself and you say, I need a new cybersecurity team, or my person doing my books is just making my life so much harder. I'm still doing all my books, but I'm paying somebody that said they're doing my books, and I'm undoing everything that they're doing, right? That's where all of this comes from. And I bring in myself sometimes as a speaker, other people that are masters as a fractional COO, a fractional CFO, somebody that's going to go in and look at your company culture and tell you how to hire somebody. Here's some great behavioral things. That's what I'm lining up in these events. It's once a month, and it is all about co-collaboration. I'm a firm believer that if the last 3 years of this mortgage industry that I've been in has been brutal for everybody, okay? It has not been easy we lost half the industry starting in 2026 in licensing.
Wow.
If we would have just co-collaborated a little bit more, I firmly believe, and not held everything so tightly, we probably could have come up with some really great ideas to bridge this gap and have more people in the industry.
Yeah.
My personal opinion. So the basis behind it is to touch something for these elevated people where we're putting higher people in the room so that we're taking from them, and that can get us to that next level. Because if you don't surround yourself with people that succeed or at a higher level than you, it's really difficult to make that jump into that next level in your business.
Well, I think it also goes back to what I was saying earlier about if you don't, it's far enough outside your world that you haven't experienced it before. And sometimes having somebody who's farther along going, oh, that's normal. It's all good. You know, you're sitting here, you know, in your train wreck full of dumpster fires. And they're like, it's normal. It's all good, man.
Just keep breathing. It's going to be fine. It's going to all work out.
Sometimes you just need somebody like that, you know? But,
yeah. But that's what I don't want to track leads. We're all professionals. Okay. That's not what this is about. Your attendance. I don't need to track your attendance. I don't need to do any of that. You want to put the time in, you want to invest the money in. That's what we want, are those professionals in the room.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And so there's going to be links to the website as well as a quick freebie. Do you want to tell people about the freebie that you're going to
Yeah, so the freebie we talked a little bit about is my framework. The MAP framework is all the AI prompts that I put in my book so that they can go ahead and work through those. Now, I will just preface, please do not take its first response. Go back and forth with it. You have to give it information about you. It's not just going to magically know all the things unless you have trained your ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or whatever that you do. The first response is not the best one, okay? Go back and forth with it, dig in, but it will help you work through all those pieces of my framework so you can dial in your 30-second. You can put some systems in place on follow-up and follow-through. You can be intentional about your time before you show up to an event and how to actually show up as your authentic self.
Mm-hmm. One thing I learned from the AI-driven Leader, which is a book that I read on it. One of the things they did is said, ask it to ask you questions.
I tell it all the time.
I did that. It really changed how I interact with ChatGPT. Instead of guessing, it goes through and asks strategic questions going, okay, give me this five data points and then we'll figure it out. Right.
Yeah. Or ask me 5 questions that I don't see or that you need to know in order to give you the response or the output that you're looking for.
Absolutely. Perfect. So you can find all of that in the show notes, so you guys can download it if you would like. Sarah, thank you so much for being on the show today. I think networking is really more important than people think it is. And unfortunately, in the beginning of our building companies, oftentimes we are pretty transactional just because that's where our mindset is. We're doing everything. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to sit down and be intentional. And so I really appreciate you being on the show today, giving us a couple of some ideas and some tips and tricks about how to do that. And also looking forward to your book. The book is going to be released in the beginning of January. Is that correct?
Correct. January 1 of 26.
Awesome. We're looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into the Hustle and Grind podcast, where we unpack what it really takes to build something that matters. If today's conversation hit home, do me a favor. Share it with someone who's in the trenches too. And if you're building your own brand, platform, or message and want help turning that story into serious authority, head over to theauthorityforge.com to see how we can help. Until next time, keep showing up, keep shipping, and keep chasing the work that sets you on fire. I'm Andrew, and this was the Hustle and Grind podcast.